Hello everyone, today I will take you into one of the strangest mysteries ever recorded. A story that has baffled investigators, historians, and mystery lovers for decades. It is the story of the man from Taured, an enigmatic traveler who appeared in Tokyo, Japan, in 1954, carrying documents and identification from a country that does not exist on any map. His sudden appearance, the strange evidence he carried, and his shocking disappearance remain one of the most puzzling cases in modern history. This is not a legend created out of thin air. It is a case that has been passed down through newspaper reports, eyewitness testimonies, and records from immigration officers who were completely confused by this man's identity. Today, we will dive deeply into every detail, examining not just what happened, but also the theories, possibilities, and mysteries that surround this event. Imagine the scene: Tokyo International Airport in July 1954, a bustling hub where people from all over the world were arriving and departing. Security was tight, as Japan was still recovering from the Second World War and was cautious about who entered its borders. Among the travelers was an ordinary-looking European man, smartly dressed, carrying a briefcase, and acting exactly like any other businessman passing through customs. There was nothing unusual about him at first glance. But when he handed over his passport, immigration officers froze. The passport was unlike anything they had ever seen before. It was official, stamped, and completely real in appearance, but the country written on it was one that no one recognized. The man said he was from Taured, a nation located between France and Spain. But the officers knew that between France and Spain, there was no such country. There was only Andorra, a tiny principality that had existed for centuries. The officers assumed at first that the man was playing some kind of trick, or perhaps had made a mistake. They asked him to point out his country on a map. The man became irritated when they showed him Europe and asked him to locate Taured. To everyone's surprise, he pointed exactly to the location where Andorra lies, insisting that his homeland, Taured, had been there for more than 1,000 years. He could not understand why the officials were denying its existence. To him, Taured was real, his home, his nation, and he even carried money from various European countries, including a currency from Taured that no one had ever seen before. His passport was filled with entry and exit stamps from places he had traveled to before, proving that this was not his first international trip. Everything about him suggested that he was a seasoned traveler, a man used to crossing borders, someone who belonged to the world of business and global travel. Yet, he was from a country that, in our reality, does not exist. The man spoke multiple languages, including French and Japanese, and his behavior did not suggest insanity or confusion. He was calm, confident, and clearly frustrated at the suggestion that his homeland did not exist. The Japanese officials, realizing they were dealing with something very unusual, decided to investigate further. They called the company where the man claimed to have business meetings, but when they contacted the company, no record of him existed. He gave the name of a hotel where he had booked a room. When the hotel was contacted, they said there was no reservation under his name. Every detail that the man gave about his trip, his contacts, and his plans seemed to vanish into thin air. Yet, the documents he carried were real. His passport was authentic in appearance, and his demeanor was that of a normal, genuine traveler. At this point, Japanese immigration did not know what to do. They could not allow a man from a non-existent country to enter Japan freely, but they also could not charge him with a crime since he had committed no obvious offense. To solve the matter temporarily, they placed him in a nearby hotel under guard, while they tried to get to the bottom of this mystery. His room was on the upper floor, guarded outside the door, with no possible escape. The plan was to continue the investigation the following day, but when officials entered his room the next morning, the man from Taured was gone, the room was empty, the windows showed no signs of being opened, and there was no way he could have escaped without being seen by the guards. His passport, his documents, and his belongings had vanished with him. The man from Taured had disappeared, leaving no trace behind. This incident shook the officials, and though it was recorded, it was never officially explained. Some claimed that the man was a hoax, Others said it was a case of mistaken identity. But many researchers believe that this is one of the strongest pieces of evidence for the existence of parallel universes, alternate realities, or time slips where people sometimes accidentally cross from one dimension into another. Could it be that the man from Taured truly came from a parallel Earth, one where Taured exists instead of Andorra? If so, how did he cross into our world, and why did he vanish without a trace? This case remains deeply puzzling because of the consistency of the details. The passport was physical, the stamps were real, and the man himself was interviewed. Unlike urban legends that grow from folklore, this story originated from a real record of immigration authorities, making it one of the most solid mysteries of its kind. As we continue to unravel this strange event, we must ask ourselves, what is reality, and how fragile are the boundaries between our world and another? Now let us step back and carefully examine the events in detail, piecing them together to understand how something so impossible could happen in plain sight at one of the busiest airports in the world. As investigators looked deeper into the story of the mysterious traveler, they began to realize how impossible every detail seemed. His passport was not a forgery. It had official stamps, and the quality of the paper and ink matched what was expected of real travel documents. Yet no government in the world recognized Taured. If it was fake, it was the most elaborate and convincing forgery anyone had ever seen. But if it was real, then the man was telling the truth about a country that only existed in his version of the world. One of the most fascinating details that has been reported is the man's reaction when confronted with maps. He seemed genuinely distressed that no one else acknowledged Taured. This was not the behavior of someone caught lying. It was the behavior of someone whose very reality was suddenly in question. Imagine waking up one morning and discovering that the country you were born in, the place where your family lived, and the home you had always known, simply did not exist on the maps of another world. The man insisted that his country had stood between France and Spain for more than 1,000 years, and to him, Andorra was the fiction. He was trapped in a nightmare where everything he believed about the world was being denied. Theories about the man from Taured vary widely. Some believe he was a time traveler, someone who had slipped into the wrong year or era. If Taured had existed in the past, but somehow vanished from history in our timeline, perhaps he had come from a version of Earth where events unfolded differently. Others argue that he was evidence of a parallel universe, a reality running alongside our own, almost identical but with small variations. In his world, Taured was real and Andorra was not. For reasons we cannot explain, he crossed into our version of reality for just a brief moment before being pulled back to his own. There are also skeptics who claim the story is nothing more than an urban legend, retold and exaggerated over time. They argue that no official documents of the case exist, and that without hard evidence, the story is just a strange piece of folklore. Yet believers point out that the case has been repeated with consistent details for decades, and that its persistence suggests something more than just imagination. If it was only a legend, why does it continue to resonate so deeply with people around the world? The disappearance itself is perhaps the most chilling element of the story. The man was kept in a secure hotel room with guards posted outside. There was no balcony, no possible escape route, and yet by morning he was gone. Not only was he gone, but so were all his belongings. It was as if he had never existed at all. Some researchers argue that this proves the interdimensional theory. Perhaps the same mysterious force that brought him here also pulled him back, erasing all evidence of his existence. Others suggest more sinister explanations, such as government cover-ups, secret agencies, or experiments that may have caused or concealed what happened. What makes the Taured case so fascinating is how it touches on some of the biggest questions about existence. Are we truly living in the only reality, or are there countless versions of our world existing side by side, separated by a thin and fragile veil? If people can sometimes cross from one to another, even accidentally, then our understanding of the universe is far from complete. Physicists today even discuss the possibility of multiple dimensions, alternate timelines, and quantum realities where small differences create entirely separate worlds. Could the man from Taured have been the first visible evidence of such a theory? Consider how many people throughout history have vanished without explanation. Whole groups of settlers, entire ships like the crew of the Mary Celeste, or individuals who disappear into thin air, never to be seen again. Could some of these cases also be explained by slips between dimensions? Could the man from Taured have simply gone back to his own reality, leaving us only with the story of his brief appearance? If so, then perhaps right now, in another version of Earth, there are people telling the story of the man from Andorra, who appeared claiming his country existed while denying Taured's reality. The Taured mystery is not just about one man. It is about the possibility that our world is far stranger than we can imagine. It challenges the way we think about time, space, and history. It forces us to accept that even in an age of science, technology, and progress, there are still mysteries that cannot be explained. And maybe, just maybe, it is proof that our universe is not alone. The story of the man from Taured is still told today as one of the greatest unsolved mysteries. It lingers because it is not only a strange tale of travel gone wrong, but also a window into the unknown. It is a reminder that reality may not be as stable as we believe, and that at any moment someone could appear, or disappear, into another world. And as long as the case remains unsolved, the question will continue to haunt us. Who was the man from Taured, and where did he really come from?